The movie begins with a group of Canadian soldiers, led by Ryan, patrolling a dangerous road in Kandahar province, Afghanistan. Their mission is to ensure the route is clear before the rest of their convoy moves forward. While scanning the road, Ryan notices suspicious black patches and orders the convoy to halt. He instructs a sniper to shoot at each patch. The first 2 shots reveal nothing, but the third detonates, exposing a hidden landmine. As the explosion rings out, enemy fighters emerge from concealed positions, forcing the soldiers to retreat and find another path. During their escape, the soldiers come across a small, isolated desert village. As they move cautiously, searching for threats, they encounter an elderly man who calmly picks up a grenade and tosses it aside, leaving the soldiers stunned. Ryan reports back to base, describing the man as having crazy eyes. Despite the strangeness of the situation, the elder gestures for the soldiers to follow him into a house for safety. Though the 2 sides can't communicate with words, the elder's calm presence convinces Ryan to trust him. Inside the house, the soldiers prepare for a possible attack. They reload their weapons and check their gear. Tension builds as they anticipate the enemy's next move. Then, unexpectedly, children enter the room, bringing plates of food. This moment of unexpected hospitality is interrupted when an explosion shakes the area, signaling the enemy's approach. The soldiers brace for what they believe could be their last stand. However, the elder steps outside, and soon after, the enemies inexplicably retreat. Confused but relieved, the soldiers return to their base, unsure of what had just occurred. Back at base, Captain Mitchell grows curious about the elder. His investigation reveals a local legend about a mysterious ghost who fought during the Soviet-Afghan War. This ghost, believed to be immortal and highly skilled, is rumored to still roam the area. Mitchell connects this legend to the elder the soldiers encountered. Meanwhile, he also learns about Bashir Dayad Khan BDK, a ruthless warlord with a private militia. The Canadian forces are negotiating with BDK to secure his help in constructing Hyena Road, a crucial supply route to counter the Taliban. Although initially resistant, BDK eventually agrees, shaking hands with the general and promising his support. As these negotiations unfold, Pete, one of the soldiers, shares a story about Afghanistan's resilience. He recounts how Alexander the Great, after failing to conquer the region, sent a bag of Afghan soil to his mother. She realized even the soil was hostile, symbolizing the land's unyielding spirit. At Spur, a forward operating base, Ryan secretly meets Jen, another soldier and his romantic partner. Their relationship draws Pete's attention, but instead of reprimanding Ryan, he offers his congratulations. However, Jen later tells Ryan they need to pause their relationship to avoid jeopardizing their careers. Ryan reluctantly agrees. The next day, Pete and Ryan return to the elder's village with a translator. When they ask about the elder, the villagers claim he is a ghost who might be in Kandahar city. Pete consults an informant, nicknamed the Cleaner, who confirms the ghost's presence and arranges a meeting. Before heading to Kandahar, Ryan informs his team of grim news. 2 Canadian soldiers have been captured by the Taliban. The team is shaken, knowing the brutal fate that could await hostages. To lift their spirits, Pete plays music through the translator's phone, and the soldiers dance, momentarily forgetting their fears. The convoy sets off and eventually arrives at their destination. Pete discreetly drops off the Cleaner, calling him one of the bravest men he knows. Ryan, Pete, and the translator continue to a house where they are to meet the elder. The soldiers finally come face to face with the elder. Pete offers him money as thanks for helping Ryan's team earlier, but the elder refuses, saying it's unwise to accept money without understanding its purpose. Pete then shares the legend of the Lion of the Desert, a legendary warrior believed to have resurfaced. He hands the elder a calling card and urges him to use it if he has any valuable information. After the elder leaves, Pete reveals to Ryan that the man they just met is the Lion of the Desert. As they return to their vehicles, Pete recounts the elder's incredible history. He explains how the elder earned the nickname Ghost after surviving countless battles during the Soviet occupation. Despite being injured multiple times, the Soviets could never kill him. Pete adds that the elder could be a powerful ally since even the Taliban fear and respect him. However, as they approach their vehicle, disaster strikes. A sudden explosion rocks the area. One of their vehicles detonates, but miraculously, everyone inside survives. Pete quickly destroys the vehicle's radio to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Their respite is short-lived, as enemies begin swarming the rooftops of nearby houses. The soldiers are forced to navigate the chaotic streets under constant fire. Amid the turmoil, they encounter the Cleaner, who had been waiting for them. After fending off several attackers, the Cleaner pulls up in a truck, his face as calm and unreadable as ever. He calls out to them, explaining that he had rushed over as soon as he heard gunfire. The team wastes no time hopping onto the back of his truck, using the cover to return fire as they escape the area. Once they arrive safely back at the base, Pete and Ryan take a moment to reflect on their harrowing experience. Pete admits that he often wrestles with pessimism when thinking about Afghanistan's future. He believes the country might be too fractured for lasting peace. Ryan, on the other hand, counters Pete's despair with hope. He passionately asserts that even one small act, one decisive shot, can change the course of history. Their conversation ends there, each man holding tightly to his perspective. Later, Pete continues strategizing, calling in trusted contacts. He asks why the ghost agreed to meet with them, yet remains silent during their entire meeting. Intrigued by the elder's behavior, Pete assigns the cleaner a new mission: to investigate the importance of the village where they first encountered the ghost, and to learn more about its population. The cleaner accepts the task without hesitation, prepared to uncover whatever secrets the village may hold. After giving his orders, Pete sits with one of his fellow soldiers, reflecting on the strange and unnerving series of events that had unfolded in the village. The soldier shares his thoughts on the village's eerie calm and the sudden appearance of the elder, sparking a deeper conversation about what the ghost presence might truly mean for their mission and Afghanistan as a whole. After learning the truth about the land, Pete is told that BDK owns the village. He quickly tells the cleaner to meet him at Spur. Meanwhile, Jen visits a doctor because she hasn't had her period for 6 months. The doctor tells her she's pregnant, explaining that a new life is growing inside her. The cleaner arrives at Spur and meets Pete and Ryan. Pete confirms that BDK owns the village land and rents it out to farmers. Many of these farmers can't pay on time, including Ghost's son, who is behind on rent. Pete believes Ghost came back to protect his family's honor after his son couldn't pay. Ryan suggests setting up snipers near the village to watch for any activity. His men prepare their weapons and take positions in the mountains early the next morning, where they can clearly see the village. At first, nothing happens. Then, BDK's convoy arrives at the village gates, and his men kidnap Ghost's granddaughters. One of Ryan's snipers asks for permission to shoot, but Pete tells them not to fire unless the kidnappers have guns. The sniper struggles with his conscience but doesn't shoot, even though he feels awful about it. After the kidnapping, Ryan storms out of the communication room, furious. Jen follows him and tries to explain that they're following the rules of engagement and orders from their superiors. But Ryan is too angry to listen and goes to confront Pete. Ryan accuses Pete of letting the kidnappers go and says the children could be sold for money. Pete explains that while BDK is cruel, he's also important for their mission, so they couldn't act against him. Later, the cleaner tells them that Ghost will probably take revenge using an ancient tribal custom. Pete explains to Ryan that Ghost and BDK have hated each other for years, dating back to when they fought together against the Soviets. Pete says only Ghost can deal with BDK because it's personal for him. The team meets Ghost at a safe house. During their meeting, Ghost gets a phone call that leaves him furious and heartbroken. Meanwhile, the story shifts to BDK's son, who is kidnapped by unknown men after leaving a barbershop. His captors send his severed head to Ghost, escalating the situation. BDK also gets a tragic call about his son's death. Back at the safe house, Jen and Ryan meet privately. Jen shows Ryan an ultrasound of their unborn baby, and Ryan is moved to tears. When Jen asks if he wants to take responsibility, Ryan says he absolutely does. Jen cries, saying she thought he wouldn't want the baby. Meanwhile, Pete talks to a general about BDK working with the Taliban. He explains that BDK profits from disruptions in the area, which slow down the construction of Hyena Road. Pete suggests making Ghost their ally, and the general agrees because he despises BDK. The cleaner and Pete meet Ghost again at the safe house. Pete insists that Ghost attend the Hyena Road opening ceremony. At first, Ghost says he's just a farmer and doesn't want to go. But when Pete tells him BDK will be there, Ghost changes his mind. He says it will be an honor to attend. That night, Ryan proposes to Jen, and she happily says yes. The two share a loving moment, and Ryan promises to be careful during his next mission. The next day, the general's convoy arrives at the opening ceremony, while Ryan's men take positions in the mountains to watch both the ceremony and the safe house. After some time, they see BDK's convoy heading toward the safe house instead of the ceremony. Pete tells a department to hack into phone calls in the area. After one failed attempt, they successfully tap into BDK's phone. When BDK arrives at the safe house, Ghost steps outside to meet him. Ryan and his team listen to their heated conversation through a translator. Ghost accuses BDK of disrespecting him, and BDK responds by saying Ghost's son hasn't paid the rent. Ghost gives BDK the money and demands his granddaughters back. BDK agrees but says he wants his son in return. In a shocking twist, Ghost returns BDK's son, but only his severed head. Furious, BDK aims his gun at Ghost. Ryan, unable to watch Ghost die, disobeys Pete's orders and shoots BDK, killing him instantly. Pete is furious and scolds Ryan for interfering, saying Ghost wanted an honorable death. The group retreats to the village, but they're attacked by enemies. Along with Ghost, they fight hard to escape but end up trapped in a house. Realizing they're outnumbered, Ryan calls for an artillery strike on their location. Jen pleads with him to cancel the request, but Ryan insists it's the only way. As the artillery strike approaches, Ryan tells Ghost he's about to become a father, sharing a heartfelt moment before their deaths. The strike hits, destroying the area and killing everyone inside. Later, soldiers raid a nearby home and rescue Ghost's granddaughters. At the funeral for the fallen soldiers, Pete, Jen, and the general mourn their loss. Meanwhile, Ghost's son takes his daughters to visit Ghost's grave, bringing the story to a bittersweet end.